co-founder of Livingspring Family Medical Center here in the awesome city of Mansfield, Texas. I'm so happy to be here again, doing another Facebook Live, all in helping our patients live long and well. And we'll be talking about the topic, Doc, help my money make money. I am excited to have the one and the only Dr. Chiagozie Fawole, who's a pediatric anesthesiologist. She's a friend, she's a sister. I've known her for way back, and I'm so honored to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on. Super excited.
Awesome. Awesome. My pleasure. My pleasure. For those who are watching live, you know what to do. Hashtag live. For those who are watching a replay, please hashtag replay. You can tag people on this and have people come join us because this should be a very informative session. All right, Doc, I already introduced you, your name. You're a pediatric anesthesiologist, but you're also an STR guru. But to help my patients, my people who are watching, our viewers, get a better understanding of you, can you introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so if I am a pediatric anesthesiologist. In other words, I put babies to sleep both at work and at home. I am a mom of 3, including one that's about to turn 2 years old. So in terms of busy, yeah, I'm a little, just a hint. But in my spare time, you know, which I create, I also am a real estate investor. We've been doing that now for something close to maybe 6 to 7. I always have to count. My first baby is 8 years old, so somewhere between 6 and 8 is kind of where the whole real estate thing falls. Wow. We've done a broad range of projects that we can delve into at some point, but these days we try to focus more on short-term rentals, although it's not the only thing that we're doing.
Okay, awesome. Now, for those who are watching, they're like, and for those who are watching who are thinking, why would a doctor be talking about like money? Well, a lot of health issues sometimes are tied to money stress. And so learning how to make our money work for us is important too, as far as health. So this is an important topic. So Doc, why do you do what you do? What got you? I mean, pediatric anesthesiology, real estate, like kind of very, very different. And you said you make time for it, even with 3 kids.
Yeah.
Why do you do what you do?
So for me, it started out during my training, right? It was during residency. And I noticed that, and this is not bashing anybody, this is not saying anything bad about anybody, but it was just my observation. I noticed that I had a few of my attendings, my bosses, right, who looked like they were comfortable financially. And there were some who looked like they were struggling financially. And so it sort of opened my eyes to the idea that just by being a physician was not all that it took for you to actually live comfortably financially. And sort of that kind of eye-opening. And I mean, I was always called like a very quiet person, right? So it wasn't like I was asking them like all the questions, like tell me about your money. I wasn't that kind of person. But just like quiet observation, I noticed that so this whole like doctor money that people talk about, like there's a whole thing that has to happen at the back end that if you're not paying attention to, right, you'll be like, everybody will see you as the doctor, right? But then you're still hurting financially, and that was one thing I did not want. So at the time, I started thinking, okay, like what can I do now during residency that can help prepare me for building wealth, since it wasn't like a default thing that happened. And that was when I started to read and learn about real estate. I was watching a lot of real estate type shows at the time. I started reading a lot of real estate books, and it caught my attention. It seemed like a very interesting thing. And I think it actually, my husband says that it helped me get through residency. So if you're watching this and you're like, what is residency? Like that's our training period, right? It was a very stressful time. And having this thing outside of my main pursuit gave me like a mental escape, so that whenever I was driving home from work, I had something that engaged my mind, that made me like not burn out, that like excited me again. And I always like encourage people that, you know what, there's always something out there that can help you release your stress. Like when you find that one thing, pursue it very hard, so that way it can create an entire like life for you. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Now, for those of you who are watching who are not physicians, who are like, well, good for you guys. This is a doctor. There's still a lot to learn from these conversations. As residents, we're not making good money. And you're working long shifts. You don't have time to work 2 jobs. And so this still applies to everyone who's looking to have their money work for them. All right. So my next question is this. A big cause of health issues sometimes are related to financial issues.
Yeah.
What would you say are tips to someone who is struggling financially on ways to get out of financial stress? That is a heavy question. I'm aware.
Yeah.
Well, I'm asking it anyway.
So the first thing that I would say is just come to terms with where you are right now. I think for me, at different points in time, I've had to like recalculate and figure out, okay, what's going on. And one of the hardest things to actually do is to define the we are here. Okay. Because very often, either our upbringing, our society, our environment tells us if you're doing this thing this way, you are a horrible person, because that's what like good people don't get into debt, or everybody has to be out of debt. So because you have debt, you are a bad person. That's like, people don't say it that way, obviously, but that's the messaging that we get all around us, right? So sometimes, like when we think about, say, debt, when we think about our finances, we equate them to ourselves. And because we don't want to call ourselves evil, we then like shut it out, and we're like, la 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 la, I don't want to hear it. But we know that things aren't working out exactly like we planned. So the very first step that I have come to even take myself sometimes is just to look in the mirror and say, okay, I know you don't like to look at it, but let's add up those numbers, right? It's like, I know you have like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards, and you only want to acknowledge that you have debt in one of them, but how about we go pull everything out and just write them out? Because it's in being able to just face the reality that you can then start to think, and then like the ideas can start to come on how to deal with those situations. Yeah.
Now, Doc, I want to say something before you continue. Sometimes, coming to terms with where you are is even going back and seeing how much you made the year before and realizing like, wow, you actually made more than you thought you did. And where the money go, you can't get account. So the issue may not be you don't have the money. It's you're not using the, so that's big. Like
that can actually work both ways. Because sometimes, because we're not looking, we even miss the big things that happen in our lives. Okay. Like for me, this past year, for example, in my business, I had, I had everything through, I thought I had it all through one account. And then by the time my bookkeeper came back with numbers, I was like, holy moly, this was even, now the second part is where did it all go, right? Right. But if you can learn to celebrate, like identify the wins and celebrate them, then you can go figure out what happened to all of it.
True. You see what's possible, what you've already done, and that empowers you. Okay, I like it. I like it. Okay. So come to terms with where you are right now. Now, what does that typically look like? You write down a budget, or what do you think? Or you write out what, like, how would you, if someone's watching and saying, well, how do I come to terms with what I have right now? Do you say I get all the, like, how do I put the math together? What am I looking at? What would you say?
One analogy that I liked to, it's not really an analogy, it's more of a practical thing. Like when you go to borrow from a bank, they usually hand you a form called a personal financial statement. Okay. It's your job to go now fill that out and basically tell them your entire financial story. It's usually in 4 parts. The first part is your assets. Okay. So your assets, those are like your property, your bank accounts, your checking account, your savings account, any money that like anybody owes you, your retirement account. You basically like go find all your money anywhere it is and you put it in that section. The next section is usually your liability. So who do you owe? Your student loans, your credit cards, your like basically anything that you have to pay out to someone. That's second part. Then the third part is usually like your incoming cash, like how much do you get coming in every month, right? So your salary, your monthly salary, any kind of rental property income that you have, any child support payments, any element, any of those like extra payments that you get, right? And then your major expenses. Okay, so like your cash flow basically. So how much comes in every month, how much goes out? So your rent, your mortgage payments, and any other like monthly payments that you have. So although this is what the bank uses, in that like come to Jesus type moment, that is your framework. Okay, like ask yourself, what are my assets and what are my liabilities? Okay. And when you take those two things, you can get your net worth. But then that's one thing. Okay. But then the next part is, what is my income and what are my expenses? And that gives you your cash flow every month. And when you can take a look at those things, you can see, okay, am I in the green? Am I in the red? If you're looking at the assets and liability side, you're like, okay, is my net worth, zero, less than zero or above zero? Or has it grown? Like, what was it 2 years ago? What was it 3 years ago? Have the actions that I've taken in the past couple of weeks or months increase my net worth or decrease them? Now, if you're an active investor, you may see fluctuations, right? But at least having just like doing that exercise at least once, you can do it once a quarter, once a month, once a week, however you want to do it, or even once a year. But if you do it, often enough, then you can make changes that actually impact things going forward.
Awesome. I like it. You got to be honest with where you are. And that means looking at the numbers, and their calculators, there are things you can put. Don't feel intimidated by the math. So you gotta start from where you're at. You don't know where you're going to go to, you know where you're at. All right. Awesome. All right. So Doc, my next question, they talk about real estate as a way to generate money. Realistically speaking, because I have doctors who are watching this or who will watch this, and then some who are non-doctors, is this for everyone?
So there is, I can't think of any investing strategy that I can blanketly say is for everyone. Okay. True. I will say though, that when you look at historical data, when you look at the millionaires and people that have made significant wealth in the world, very often one common thread that runs through is that they own real estate. For some people, real estate was the venture, like they were buying property as their business. But for a number of people, what they do is they earn in one space and they funnel the money into real estate, and then they amplify with real estate. Okay. And the reason that real estate is such a powerful vehicle is that it's very tangible. That's why it's called real, right? Like it's real, it's not just like an imaginary thing, like the stock market that fluctuates, right? It's physical. It caters to people's basic need for shelter. Okay. So is real estate for everyone? I wouldn't say yes. But when you look at, like, they say, like, success leaves clues. When you look at the big millionaires and billionaires or whoever, check it. They have some amount of real estate, either passively or actively at some point in their portfolio.
True. I don't know why now I'm having a tickle in my throat. Sorry. All right. My money. All right. Now, for someone who's watching, who's like, okay, what are first steps when it comes to real estate as a way to make money? I know you talked about find out where you are, know what your cash flow is, so your net worth. But what would you say are first steps when it comes to real estate as something to try out as a way to make your money work for you?
Yeah. The very first thing is sort of to sit down and, again, introspection. Ask yourself, what do I think I want to deal with going forward? Okay. Now, as I say this, I add the caution that for most people don't, like, nobody is born understanding how to do real estate, how to buy property, how to, so what I'm about to say is not a way to not go learn. Okay. It's a matter of being open to the possibility that what is very, like, fad-y, like what may be like on the flashing lights and everything may not be yours, but going in with a huge dose of curiosity. Okay. Like for me, when I got started, it was TV that caught my attention. I was watching TV one day, HGTV, and I saw them on Flip or Flop, make a house look really pretty, and they made $60K, and I was like, what? These guys just made my entire annual salary. I'm going to do what they're doing. Now, with my very first deal, the very first deal did not make me $60K. Instead, it cost me $10K. Like, I lost money on that first deal. Okay. Wow. So after that first deal, I was like, all right. So maybe this fix and flip thing may not be the first thing to do. And that was when I ended up now going on to, like, multifamily, because that one was a little more a little more stable. I figured, okay, I'm not like risking so much in a short time. This one, you know, there'll be tenants paying and I can, you know, keep it for a long time. So when people say, okay, how do I start? The first thing that I say is get into real estate communities. Okay? In my case, for me, at first, it was Bigger Pockets. Back then, that was basically it. But now there's Bigger Pockets. There are lots of Facebook groups. There are lots of communities. If you're a physician, there are lots of physician, you know, groups or whatever. If you want to actually find a paid mentor, that is there as well. Those are all there. The second thing is read books. Oh my goodness. What books have done for me, like when I first started, there was one book that I read. It was called How to Invest in Real Estate with Low or No Money Down. Now, at the time, I was a resident, right? So I didn't have money, but I was reading about all this real estate. And it was like, girl, you're reading about all this thing. Like, how exactly are you even going to do it? And then I read that book and it just was like, oh, okay. So I don't even have to use my own money. Like, if I can spend the time. Okay, so there are 4 things that are required in any real estate transaction. Okay? There's the knowledge, there's the credit, there's the time, and then there's money. Okay, so most people don't have all 4. So knowledge, money, time, and credit. Okay, most people don't have all 4. But if you have 1 or 2 of them, and you can go find the person that has the other 1 or 2, you could make something happen. A lot of those who are out there, you know, buying like big apartment complexes, they're not using their money. They're using other people's money, but because they've spent the time getting the knowledge, they're able to then turn around and use other people's money and invest in deals. So for me, that was how I got started. My first, second, third, maybe even, not counting our personal home, my first, second, third deal, I pulled money from other people. It wasn't until maybe my 4th or 5th that I started using funds that were like mine and like sourced from myself. You know, not
okay.
Matter of fact, it wasn't until my 10th maybe that I used like actual money from my checking account. All the deals beforehand, they were sourced in some way or the other from external sources. So read books. That was the point I was trying to make. It was in reading a book that I learned all the creative financing strategies and ways that you could basically create funds to do your deals. So read books. That's the second one. Books will open up crazy doors, no pun intended, when it comes to real estate investing. Yeah.
I like the pun. And you can get these books at the library. For those of you who are thinking, oh, so I got to buy this, you could get it at the library. Free. So I hope people are empowered and encouraged. It does take your effort from you as well. But there are ways around it. And I love how you emphasize the fact that you're actually able to do it with literal no money down, or learn ways to divvy up the 4 parts that are needed for a good real estate deal. So I love that. Now, I know that your big niche is the real estate. For someone who's watching who's like, yeah, doc, I still want my money to make me money. I still want my money to work for me. Are there other options outside of real estate? Like, what are a few tips you would say as just a human in general?
Oh, my goodness. So, quick story. About 4 years ago, you name the model, and I was trying it out. Like, the things that I have put my hands into, I mean, well, there's real estate, of course. There's the stock market. You can trade, even in the stock market, you can either be very active, very passive. There's a whole spectrum over there. There's e-commerce. So, you know, Amazon that you go order things on. Well, guess what? You can be the one actually providing the items on Amazon to sell. That's a huge money maker. Do you want to coach? Do you have a skill that you have learned, right? Are you, you know, when you've mastered a craft, you know, even like real estate now, that's another income stream, right? When you've mastered a craft, can you go teach it to someone? That's another major income stream. I mentioned the stock market, but then there are also, you know, there's also Forex and there's crypto, and there are all these other things. And now there are even like brokerages and hedge funds and things like that'll let you give them money, they invest, and they basically hand you money. So
you get your cut, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I can go on. I mean, I can go on for days on that.
Lots of options. And you know, one of the things I did want to say though is I want to encourage people to kind of look back when you're doing the assessment. I know we talked about it earlier about being honest, like where you're starting from. Look at recurring expenses that you have that may not be necessary. Look at things that have value that you really need to sell because you don't need it now. You could start there. So, real estate is an option. You do have to put in effort. You have to learn. You have to get yourself in communities that would teach you and you could grow with, or get a coach, or reach out to Dr. Fawole if you're a doctor and you're interested in doing that. So there are options, but there is effort on your part. But I want to also emphasize the importance of being real with where you're at. And that means looking at what is your pattern in the last 30 days, last 60 days, last 90 days. What are things you can turn off? What are things you can cut down? How can you meal prep as opposed to eating out? I'm a doctor and I don't eat out. I make my own lunch. Yeah.
You're a saint.
No lunch to work. So just little things like that do add up. But I'm hoping that, and I trust that this has been helpful to someone who's watching. Please share. When our money is able to work for us, then we're able to address some health conditions, because that's one less stress, one less blood pressure inducing stressor, or high blood pressure inducing stressor. Now, Doc, I already said that they can reach out to you. So someone's watching like, okay, I don't need her to get my baby to sleep. I got that covered. But I would like to connect with her to come talk to me about STRs, so short-term rentals, and other ways to do real estate smart. How can people connect with you, Doc?
So the easiest way to find me, honestly, is on Facebook. If you just screenshot my name right now and type it in on Facebook, you will find me. I can promise you that there is only one Chiagozie Fawole.
Find it.
And if you find a second one, we have to connect, okay? Yes. So yeah, definitely find me on Facebook. My coaching kind of platform, whatever, is SavvyDocs.co, and that is doctors with an S. We have a free Facebook group for physicians. If you're a physician, yeah, that's where you hang. If you're not a physician, I share a lot of stuff on my my regular wall and things. If you're interested in short-term rentals, we put together events and conferences for those who want to learn about short-term rentals. And the most recent one you can find at strcon2022.com. So strcon2022.com. That's just, those are different ways that you can find me. But the easiest one for sure is just screenshot my name, type it in. Make sure you put in all the I's.
Yeah, there are two of them. Chiagozie. Yeah, you got to put in all the I's. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. I know you're busy and I appreciate you doing this, even at this time of the day. You rock. All right. For those who are watching, please, like always, sharing is caring. Make sure you share. And if you or anyone is looking for an awesome, a thorough, a passionate family physician in the Mansfield, Texas area, who even have conversations about money to help you live long and well, I am she. Have a good one, guys and ladies. Bye.
Take care, guys.